I would like Chris to do a top 5 ranking of his coworkers.
Pete's down the list.
Pete would be the guy, be like, okay, a couple guys that didn't make the cut. Pete Dilemma.
Kristen's towards the top of the list, too. Kristen might really be number one. Oh, yeah, that's right. We rank people here. Workers, co-workers, family members, running backs.
Uh-oh.
That's what we're doing today, okay? That's right. Chris Sims, Paul Burmeister, Paulie B. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Running backs is much safer to rank than family members.
Definitely.
Co-workers.
Without a doubt.
I think we hurt Pete's feelings. Pete is like under the weather big time. Can hardly talk.
He's hurting. I mean, he's got the vid. He might have the vid. I'm not sure. I mean, I know, so I don't know. I don't know. He said no.
It's the best he sounded all day.
No. So we don't know what's going on with Pete. I wish everybody could hear him. At some point, I do feel like we need to have Pete.
Definitely get him on right here.
Or just a third microphone, just to be like, when he talks in our ear, we hear him so people can understand.
Maybe post-draft, like in May.
Right.
Yeah.
A third personality that just from behind the glass, every now and then, we hear from Pete, so everybody knows who this guy is.
Pete's feeling so much better right now.
And then they'll understand what we go through too, because usually when we hear Pete, just so all of you know, we hear,
could be any of the three.
His kids are in the background, so the guy is multi-talented, daddy daycare / show producer, and then I don't want to be him actually.
That was very good tonic for Pete.
Thanks.
Well done.
Thanks.
Good timing for all the invites on the show and all that. So,
good.
Running backs, how was it? Getting to a top 5.
Good. I mean, it's always interesting trying to figure out how you're going to order them. Running back's one of those positions too where, hey, they can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. So it's about, okay, what do I think is going to translate to the NFL? All right, what fits into the most offenses and things like that? So there's a lot to take into account here, but I think we got 5 pretty good ones, and then really, is a decent class overall as you really look at it. Not that I think the way I look at it, hey, the top 5 can all be somewhat special. We got a group behind them that I think can also be real good. Not sure I'm going to say special, but real good and certainly have good NFL careers.
And there certainly is a mindset right now with the running backs that you don't have to take one in round 1. Yet there's some really big names in college football the last couple of years. Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, a couple of North Carolina kids. So we'll definitely get to the running backs, not just the list, but do you take one in round 1 or do you wait till 2, 3, and 4 like we've seen a lot of in recent years?
I know. It's the $1 million question, and my answer to that right here, right off the bat, would just be no. You don't take one in round 1 unless it's like so special that you're going, oh my gosh, wow. That's unbelievable. Saquon Barkley, Adrian Peterson.
Yep.
I'll even say Zeke. Zeke, when he was coming out, he hit that. Yeah. He was that kind of guy. And so was Leonard Fournette. Now, maybe the NFL learns and goes, wait, we'll stop taking those guys in the top 5. Maybe we don't need to take them all in the top 5, because I think that's all proving worthy that maybe they weren't top 5 picks.
Right.
But maybe that top 10, top 15, certainly. After that, I'm not thinking about,
even the last 2 years, we only had 2 running backs go in the round 1, and Josh Jacobs in the 20s.
Right.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 32.
32, right.
It's only 2 years in, but do you think those were good choices?
I think I like Josh Jacobs a lot.
Yeah.
I do. And even there's a good, that's the case in point. That's questionable. I mean, that was questionable, right?
Yeah.
You could, if he got drafted at the top of the 2nd, I wouldn't have been mad. He was the best running back in that class by far that year, and I think the Raiders had a real need at the position.
He's been a nice player, too.
He's a really good player. Really good player. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm not going to lie to you, he was my top running back last year. I was wrong. He shouldn't have been 1. Jonathan Taylor should have been 1. My number 2 should have been 1. Edwards-Helaire, here's my concern a little bit more than anything. And this goes in, there's some other people I probably could have talked about in this draft a little bit. I call this like the Peter Warrick problem. Okay?
Remember him.
Peter Ward, remember?
State,
I mean, nobody was more fun to watch than him in the open field and breaking ankles and doing all that. Edwards-Helaire was the same way. But it was like, okay, but we need some more speed. I mean, I always call it the Peter Warrick syndrome because it's like broke the ankles of the first player. Broke the ankles of the second player. Here we go. Oh, the first guy he broke the ankles, caught him.
Yeah.
He wasn't fast enough.
Right.
And that would be my thing with Edwards-Helaire is there is a lack of true straight-ahead explosion to where he made some nice runs this year, and he shakes somebody in the hole, and you go, oh, here he goes. Oh, 9 yards. Damn. Okay, I thought he was about to take off and go for 50 right there. Yeah. And that's where Jonathan Taylor had an advantage. And that's something, again, you got to take into account with college and the NFL. Because those plays in college, he makes somebody miss in the hole, and then he takes it up the sidelines, and he goes for 50 yards, and you go, that was an awesome play. Look at that. I'm going to evaluate that. I like what I see there. But you got to go, wait, in the NFL, all right, he make that guy miss in the hole. Wait, that next linebacker that's coming to chase him now that he outran in college, turn the corner, this guy runs 4.4 or 4.5. He's not going to be able to turn the corner.
Right.
And that's part of, trying to evaluate the future and what you're going to be dealing with in the NFL.
I used to get all excited watching some of these guys draft time, and Michael Lombardi worked with him at NFL Network.
Yeah, sure.
He used to be like, Paulie, he's making bankers and doctors and lawyers miss, okay? He's not going to be doing that
Mike's
on
the best
Sundays.
and stuff like that.
So funny.
Right.
Every single time.
And that's what's hard about running backs, too. You see a lot of highlight plays with all these guys.
Yeah. And
especially college football right now. Let's not forget, the game's wide open. There's very few teams that are running I formation, pulling guards.
Yeah,
right.
I want to talk to you about that, especially when we get to the North Carolina kids.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of plays where you go, hey, that's good, but you're just not going to be in that type of offensive formula in the NFL to think you're always going to be in space and it's always going to be you one-on-one or you in space to make two guys miss. It's a different world in the NFL.
So Pete just made a big decision there. He said, let's get right to the running back
Oh,
rankings.
look
I
at
got
Pete.
a whole page of Ask Me Anything questions. Afterwards, we'll do it after.
Well,
do it after the rankings.
He said.
Right?
His voice cracking all over the place.
Little Peter Brady-ish back there. Okay, so right to the running back rankings.
Boom.
Pete. I'm going to go to the prospect rundown presented by Applebee's. There, he's ahead of me. He's got it done. Sims 2021 draft running back rankings. What are you looking for? Good little starter here. What are you looking for most when you scout a running back?
I'm just looking for a guy that can play in all offenses, right? And I'm really looking at it through the lens of, like, who am I going to get the most out of for 3 or 4 years? That's the other thing with this running back thing now. Stop thinking about, like, well, I think this guy can last for 7 years. We have no idea. Ezekiel Elliott's built out of steel, and we're seeing him, decline year by year right now. And it's year, 5 or 6 he's going into? So, that's where the first thing I look at. Who's going to – I'm not looking at like, I think this guy for 4 years and then the next contract. No, it's about what you can do for me the next 3 or 4 years. How many offenses do you fit into in the NFL? I think that's part of my evaluation process, right?
Yeah.
Because it just gives you more flexibility overall as a player to play on different teams, different scenarios, those type of things. And then, of course, at this position, hey, this is raw ability position.
Legs and ass.
It's legs and ass. It's explosion. It's power. It's not, that's the name of the game here. And it's not always going to be, hey, there's going to be some running backs with great production on really good teams that run the ball really well. And then other guys that, maybe don't have those opportunities, but their attributes and their explosiveness translate to the NFL to where I go, if he gets, him in the league is going to be special, watch out. So I guess that's what I'm kind of looking for altogether.
We touched on this a little bit, but we have a graphic, Pete. Let's get to that. First round running backs in the last 5 drafts. So there they are. We've got Zeke Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, the highest one taken, Rashad Penny, Sony Michel, Josh Jacobs, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the last 5 drafts.
And it's why you don't do it. I mean, it just, I know Josh Jacobs has worked out well. Sony Michel has not worked. That's been a bust so far.
McCaffrey's worked.
Rashad Penny has been a bust so far. It's been injuries. Edwards-Helaire, hey, it was solid, but it wasn't special. I think we hit on that. And then, even with Elliott, Fournette, and Barkley, like, hey, it's been good, but Fournette's been banged up and not been like ever a superstar. Elliott, of course, we just talked about him a little bit, and Barkley's coming off a torn ACL.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then there's Christian McCaffrey. He missed most of the year.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So they made the point for us to where, you really shouldn't be thinking about running backs in top 10 and really almost ever anymore.
There are so many ways of looking at it. I mean, top 7 running backs last year, production-wise, not one was taken in the first round. And last year, only one taken in the first round. We just showed that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 12 in rounds 2, 3, and 4.
That makes
12.
sense.
And
Right.
names like Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers. You go back a couple of years, Chubb went there. I mean, there's
Derrick
examples.
Henry's a second-round
Derrick
pick.
Henry.
Right.
I think Kamara is
third round. He is. He's a third round out of Tennessee. I mean,
examples everywhere.
Not even playing at Tennessee. I mean, like this, again, the second guy. So that's why you can't get obsessed with like production again. I don't know. The college coach there at Tennessee was stupid. He couldn't evaluate running backs, apparently. I don't know. It's the same thing at the quarterback position at Georgia. Yeah, Justin Fields can go because we're going to keep Jake Fromm. What? No, you made a wrong decision there. So, yeah, that's where, you got to look at the player, the physical attributes, and go, wait, forget the production or carries or yards. Can this player at running back run away from linebackers, run over linebackers, catch the ball out of the backfield? That's life in the NFL.
And be trusted in pass
pro.
protection.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's take a peek at the running back rankings from last year. There you go. Edwards-Helaire at 1. You mentioned you wish you would have had Taylor at 1 instead of 2. Dobbins did some nice things for the Ravens at 3. Zach Moss for the Bills. And DeAndre Swift is with the Lions. He was your 5th guy.
And he was better than I was wrong about him. He should have been a little higher. I should have made Zach Moss number 5, I think, really, when I look at it more than that. Now, he was hurt. We never really got to see him. But, yeah, if I had to reevaluate that position, it would have been Taylor 1. I probably would have gone Dobbins 2 still. DeAndre Swift 3. Edwards-Helaire 4, Zach Moss 5, if I had to redo right now just after watching 1 year in the NFL.
As we're looking at those 5 guys, or as we saw them, do you think this year's class is better or lesser than?
I think that it's probably lesser than, a little bit lesser than. I do, yeah. I think as a whole, and even down the line, I think last year's class was a little stronger than this year's class altogether. So, yeah, I would say they got a little bit of a leg up, certainly. Top guys and all the way through, I think, are a little bit better last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going 5-1, right?
We're going
Not
5-1. Yep.
Starting at number 5, North Carolina. They had a little bit of talent on offense this past year. Javonte Williams, 5'10", 212.
Javonte Williams, he's a ball of power. That's what he is, really. And, I don't even know. Is he 212? I think at his pro day he ended up weighing 220, but I could be wrong either way. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that's what he is. His name of his game is balance and breaking tackles and power. That's what he really does. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, I think he's going to be an awesome superstar NFL type player. I do think there's a little bit of again, raw explosiveness and speed and acceleration that's missing from his game. That's why he would be my number 5 guy altogether. But everything he does in his game is pretty good. Can make people miss, but that's not really what he wants to do. Speed is good, but he's not going to be one, I think, in the NFL that we're going to sit here and watch him go, oh, he's turning the corner and watch out down the sidelines. Here goes a 60-yard gain that way, but has very good feet. I think that's the impressive thing about him. But really, when it comes down to it, it's the low center of gravity and the power in which he can run. Whether it's breaking arm tackles or just lowering his shoulder and running people over were by far the most impressive things he did.
PFF charted him with 76 broken tackles on 157 rushing attempts in 2020. In one way, that's great. You like that kind of power and that kind of toughness. Does it worry you that he's already had that much contact? You combine that with maybe some weight concerns. How much does that bother you?
Well, it does, because one of the first things you do, when you look at his legs, I don't love the look of him, the player, because the weight thing, I read that, and then you can see it on his body a little bit. He was my 3rd running back I watched after Etienne and Harris, and I just came away going, his legs were, for lack of a better way to say it, a little doughier than the other ones, which I don't love, so that's not great, I guess, hey, when you run that style, or play with that style, of course you've taken a lot of car crashes already. But the other thing I'll just say to it, too, is I don't know if it's the kind of power, right, that I look at and just go, it's going to translate to the NFL. He's going to run over the linebackers the same way in the NFL as he is in college. No, that's where, again, I like the power, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was just like, oh, wow. I mean, this guy brings it, and he's going to be able to run over the, Eric Kendricks of the NFL and the other great linebackers in football. No, I don't think it's that way. And listen, the speed is a little bit, underwhelming too. I think he ran mid 4.5s at his pro day, but I even wrote, I said, hey, listen, watching him on film, he looks like he's a mid 4.6 guy. That would be the biggest thing. And, with good hips and things like that, it wasn't great change of direction ability to make people miss and do that. So you take about, that with lack of great change of direction ability, lack of top end speed, good power, not a great route runner in the pass game. Right. That's why he's my number 5 guy in the running backs.
For all these running backs that the scouts like a lot, but they don't have the top end speed. When they get past that, like, okay, he's not going to be a super fast guy. Do you think they'd rather have a really elusive one in the hole or someone like this with Williams? They can say, well, he's powerful.
I think, with this kind of guy, I think they'd rather be elusive in the hole. This kind of, it'd be one thing if it was a really big human being.
Yeah.
If he was 230 and running this way, then I think NFL evaluators and myself, you would go, I feel comfortable about this. And this guy's going to be able to run people over in the NFL. But I don't know if I can just, like I said, say that just, unequivocally that it's going to happen, in the NFL as compared to what he was in college. So that's where I get to it. And that's where I go. I think he's really ultimately, for me, a 3rd or a 4th round pick because, game is good. Don't get me wrong. I just wrote there's nothing real special about the game that makes me come away going, ooh, he does this, and this is why you need him. There's no negative. That's a positive. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he can run between the tackles, got a little ability to bounce the ball outside. We know he can break the tackles and do all that. He has decent hands. He's just not a great route runner that way. And he is going to be able to pass protect, which you brought up. To me, he's more of a zone scheme runner, which is, give him the ball, let him find one lane, let him stick his foot in the ground and hit that 100 miles per hour, and then his power and everything comes into play.
Yeah.
I don't think he's necessarily made to be like, let me follow a pulling guard and dance around and now accelerate and hit the hole, because he doesn't have great acceleration in that. I don't think he's that kind of runner too, which is, I take that into account when I evaluate these guys. How many different running schemes can you play in, as far in the NFL? And I think, to me, he's a zone scheme runner when I really look at him.
It's all about fit, right, with any position. He sounds like the kind of guy, if you can get him in the middle rounds, if you can trust him in pass protection, he can get 6, 8, 10 carries a game if there's someone, if he's kind of the 1A or the 2 to someone who has more of a well-rounded game.
Yeah, and maybe he could be your 1.
Maybe he could be.
But you're going to be like, always, I think, a little bit like, I think we could get a little better at 1. I think we could do, just somebody else to take advantage of more that's there to be had.
To that kind of guy, there's real value to that.
There definitely is. There's no doubt. Listen, the guy that I wrote down that he reminds me of is Javian Harris of the New England Patriots, who is their number 1 right now. But I would tell you, I'd go,
he'd be a better 2.
He'd be a better 2. I look at the Patriots and go, hey, he was good, but some of those holes I saw last year, I go, they were gigantic, and top flight running backs would have made a lot more yards on some of those carries. So, that's who really I thought his style of play was like. A little bit like a Mike Davis, who we've seen in Carolina come in from McCaffrey, similar to that, or Javian Harris up in New England, that kind of guy. Got power, got a little bit of everything to his game, but nothing's great that really stands out.
You mentioned Alabama. It makes me want to get to your number 4 guy, because it's kind of a surprise.
I know
that he's here. So Najee Harris of the Crimson Tide, before we talk about him, at 6'2", 230. It's a lot of running back. Take a listen to what he had to say after the Crimson Tide won the national championship.
Najee, Ohio State has a really good front. How are you able to expose those holes so effortlessly?
Effortlessly? You didn't see what they were doing? They was blowing my eyes up. What are you talking about? It wasn't effortlessly. I'll tell you what. Them dude, they did their thing, bro. To be honest with you, it was just, what they did is every time we did a play action, they just shot the gaps. The linebackers, and we got a couple of them to play a lot of the fakes. That's why we were able to throw so much bubbles and the slants and all that. But bro, they was blowing my ass up. You tripping?
Love that one.
Love
a lot
that.
of personality there. I got to interact with him when he's in high school, and you interact with him, you certainly walk away with an opinion.
Yeah. Well, you can see that he's not afraid to share his opinion either way. I mean, hey, big bell cow style looking type running back, right?
Surprised that he's at 4.
Yes.
Most of the time you see him at 1 or 2.
I know.
Let's start with why maybe you have him a little lower than a lot of the others.
Well, I think the big thing is, first off, and I'm totally transparent. I said this to you before we started. He's a tough eval for me. It's my first one where I go, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I get it. But I think the first thing is lack of speed is a real issue. There is a true lack of speed. And,
and there's no 40 time on him either, right?
And he didn't want to do it at his own pro day, which tells you a lot too. I mean, your own pro day 40 time is going to be good. Hey, listen, just watching him break out in the open at Alabama, it's underwhelming. Like it's if you had to ask me, I would go, it's 4.65, it's 4.68, it might be 4.7 flat type of running back. I think that's what he is ultimately. Now, are there some things he does really well? There's no doubt. But man, is he running in a lot of space at Alabama. And that's where I guess my first question is just if there's nothing there in the NFL, what is he going to do for you that way? I guess that's where I come down to making him number 4. He does have great feet. I mean, he can jump cut and make people miss in the hole. He's really special that way. And jump cut and stay square at the line of scrimmage, which, hey, I'm a big fan of because, as a runner, hey, I'm in this hole and boom, now I got to jump over here. You're still square. It allows him to go straight ahead and now take on a would-be tackler and be in a great position body-wise that way. That's the thing he does best as far as just movement side to side, making people miss. But below average speed. And the other thing I would say, for his size at 6'2", 230, I would tell you it's also below average power for his size. You don't come away sitting here just going, oh, there was nothing there. Look at him smash it in there and move the pile for 5. He took on the linebacker in the hole and ran him over or broke the tackle and got 4 more yards. There's very little of that. So, I think that's where I come down on it a little bit to go, okay, big guy, got sweet feet, definitely, but it might be a little bit of the Peter Warwick syndrome I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, great. He made the middle linebacker miss in the hole. Now he takes 2 steps up, and boom, the next guy tackled him before he got going because the acceleration's not real special that way either. So I think those were my concerns with him a little bit, just as just the pure raw specimen. But, hey, I do love his size. His ability to catch the football out of the backfield is really the best thing he does.
70 catches the last 2 seasons.
He's a natural. He's a natural.
I know. It's for over 10 yards per catch, which I really like. A lot of times running backs, 6 yards per catch. It's the check down and they fall down. He's getting double digits.
I mean, he's got a real niche. And, I mean, at the very least, in the NFL, where, again, I'm going to sit here and tell you I don't think Najee Harris is a slam dunk number 1 NFL running back. I think he's a really good number 2 is what we're getting into, that kind of conversation again. But he will have, I think, a real role in the pass game. One, because of his size and his ability to pass protect, he's going to be great that way. But he can really run routes because of that ability to change direction and the hips and the feet that we talked about, let alone his hands are awesome, and his ability to kind of adjust to the ball, in the air is also a special. This is where I got into, like, his comparison to me. And he's tough. He's a tough eval. I'm not denying this, and I might be wrong. I could be right, though, too. But between those things I just said, the fact that he always gets to gather speed and run through holes at Alabama, it makes for a tough eval that way too. And the player I kind of kept coming away from, like who he reminded me of a little bit, running the ball and that, he reminds me a little one of Gus Edwards, the running back from Baltimore, okay, who is a really good number 2, right? Or maybe with a mixture of Fred Jackson. Remember Fred Jackson?
Yeah, college.
He really has more of Gus Edwards' size, but I feel like Fred Jackson's playing style a little bit. And even that, and Fred Jackson
was a good player.
He was a really good player.
Yeah.
I believe only had one 1,000-yard rushing season in the NFL too. So that just tells you, that's what I think Najee Harris is, a really good all-around player that we're never going, oh, he's a superstar or a top 5 running back in the league, but he's your really good number 2, or again, a number 1 that you got another number 1 next to him that fills another role to a degree. I think that's what I look at him as more than anything, Paul.
Najee Harris at 4, you had Javonte Williams at 5. You also described him as a guy with not great speed, a really good number 2. How close do you think these two are together? Is Harris a lot better than Williams, or are they maybe a little more
I
close
give
than
Harris a notch up over Williams.
By a wide gap or similar?
A good gap. I don't want to say too wide, but yes. I mean, I knew Harris was in my top 4. Williams in my top 5. I thought about maybe not making him in the top 5 and maybe moving him to 6 or 7, something like that. So I would say that, there was a little bit of a gap. Not gigantic, but certainly I think he was every bit as worthy or more worthy of being in this top 5. But I think, will the quicks be as good in the NFL? I just don't know. With the lack of ability to really run and separate that way, I think that bothers me. And, there's always something there at Alabama. And there is something to that. Again, we could take a lot of running backs and put them in Alabama, and they would look a little better than what we think because there's always great holes and great blocking, and they run the plays into the right looks and all of those type of things. So, again, it's a tough one here. I like the player. I don't love him. And I think ultimately he's a guy that I would say goes more towards the end of the 2nd round, maybe early 3rd round type of guy.
You described him as a difficult eval. I think it's a difficult reaction for a lot of people to get through. Like, if you're a big Alabama fan or if you're a big believer in Najee Harris and you think the Steelers should take him there in the mid-20s, they're going to be disappointed. But what you said is this is a quality NFL back. He's worth a 2nd or 3rd round pick. He's going to find success. But because of all the success attached to him in college, having him at 4 for a lot of people is going to be like, Sims doesn't like my guy.
I know. It's exactly right. And it's not the case. It's not. And thank you for clearing that up. You're right. But there's no way he is a end of the 1st round type talent. For me, there's no way I would say he's a top 40 picks, top 45 picks in the draft. I think he's
could be a 3rd round steal.
He could be a 3rd round steal. It means nothing. 3rd rounders can be stars in the NFL. We know that. We've just talked about that. I mean, there's plenty to go around. Alvin Kamara, people make the case for him as being the best running back in the game. He's a 3rd round pick. But yes, I just think there's concern about the game, about his game. That just can't. I just couldn't put him in the top 3 as compared to some of the other guys. There's too many plays that I look at, and again, it goes back to like what we've said, where at Alabama, where I go, hey, that was a nice run. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But I could show these 3 backs that I got in front of him, I go, you give them the same hold, they're going to get more than what he just got.
Right.
And I'm big into that. Don't always look at what he got or what the yards were after. It is like our quarterback conversation.
That's right where my mind went,
Right? It's what's there to be had. What was there to be had? There was a 40-yard gain there, and he got 40. Okay. But the really good running backs make that last guy miss and get, it was a 40-yard gain there, and they go, I got 70, though, coach. I got 70. I got 65. I made that guy miss, and I got and that's big in as far as I evaluate this position.
Javonte Williams at 5.
5'10",
212. Najee Harris at 4, 6'2", 230. And I point out those heights and weights again because we get to number 3, completely different kind of back.
Baby, I know.
Javian Hawkins out of Louisville, 5'8" and just 183.
Yeah, listen, it's a risky one as far as that's concerned. But that to me right there would be about the end of the negatives for it's Javian, right? Javian?
Is it?
I believe it. How'd you say it?
I said it wrong the last 2 years calling those games when they played Notre Dame.
What'd you just say? Say it again.
I said Javian.
Javian. I think you might be right. And I'm really don't mean to disrespect anybody by doing that. Javian. No, it's Javian.
Okay. We can call him Javian.
But we don't. We don't want to do that. Javian, though, getting back to him in all seriousness, I think that's where the negatives stop.
Just the size?
That's all. This is all there is to it. And if you watch his game and you watch him play, I wouldn't sit there and think he's 185, though, by the way he plays. First of all, there's more power, because of his quicks. He's really awesome and never letting really people hit him square. You know, he does great, like, just getting off the edge to where, okay, the shoulder got me. Or he's really good at, you know, absorbing a hit and then kind of bouncing on. But really, ultimately, at the end of the name of the game with
I think it's Javian.
Javian, okay. Yeah, it's Javian. The ultimate thing with Javian at the end of the day is speed, and more speed. And when I watch him, I just sit here and go, I'm watching Matt Breida. I'm watching Raheem Mostert. That's the guys I'm watching. Now, again, their careers might not last more than 6 years. Any of them.
Yeah.
But
they're good for a
they can
while.
go for 90 every week. You better watch out. And that, to me, is where he's really special. I mean, his acceleration is through the roof good. You know, again, another guy, you just look at him, you give him a toss sweep, an outside zone, and he sees a hole. Like, forget about it. Get on your horse. It's like meet him at the pylon 70 yards down the field later. That's where you're going to have to beat him to. You know, so I think that's the thing I loved about him. You know, just the acceleration, the pure speed, pedal to the metal. You know, and then, you know, for a smaller guy like we talked about, you know, he breaks more tackles than you would think. You know, just does a great job of, again, not letting you hit square. Now you got to tackle me with your arm tackles, and he finds a way to get extra yards that way too.
And he's someone that you must have got onto a little bit later in this process, because on your initial list, I didn't see him. I would have gone back to my board from Notre Dame against Louisville, because I know he was a headache for Clark Lee and Brian Kelly. They were concerned about him. I don't have the specifics, but he certainly had their attention in each of the last 2 years.
He's a home run hitter, and I put value into that. You know, it's why I like
Can
those.
make something out of nothing.
Yes, exactly right. You know, yes, is he a 27 carries a game type running back? No. Okay, no, but he's a double digits a game type running back with a handful of screens and pass plays to him.
Catches
and now
the
you
ball
look
well.
at it, right? He catches the ball really well. And now you look at the game over and you go, oh, we got our guy 20 touches. And man, on 3 or 4 of those, woo, it was house call, or it was really close to being like, watch out, what are you going to do? How are you going to stop this guy? So that's what I love. So I don't know how you could have watched Louisville and not be concerned about what he could do to your football team because of his speed and ability to make people miss. I think it's really, really special.
Second round was a popular time to get running backs in last year's draft. Do you see this guy as a second round kind of player?
I do. You know, I look at him a little bit. You know, I said Breida, Raheem Mostert. You know, the other guy that I wrote down that he kind of reminded me of too is the guy we talked about from last year's draft. You know, he's got a little J.K. Dobbins in him. Maybe not quite the power. J.K.'s a little more compact. And maybe Pete, what was J.K. Dobbins last year weight-wise? 205 maybe? 202 if you could look that up. But you know, I think that's where I looked at it, where I just went, hey, 209. So he was significantly bigger. But either way, it's where I looked at the guy and I just said, man, you know, to be able to accelerate top-end speed that way, you know, catch the ball the way he does, for me, you know, those are game changers in the NFL, and I'm not sitting here thinking this guy's going to play for 10 years. No, I'm looking about what I can get for him, maximize in the next 4 or 5.
I'm going to guess that you're not going to have him ahead of what you say now is your number 1 back from last year. You had him as your second one, Jonathan Taylor, second-round pick. But the other second-rounders, Swift, Akers, Dobbins, and Dillon, different kind of players, but would you put him ahead of those kind of players?
I don't know. I don't know if I would. I think I'd probably put him right after those guys.
Okay.
I do. You know,
that's a pretty good group
it
of
is good.
second-round backs last year.
It is. It was Swift, Dobbins, and who was the other one you said there? Taylor?
Let's see. Swift, Taylor, Akers, Dobbins, and Dillon.
And Akers. Yeah, Akers was my number 6 back last year.
Good
I mean,
player.
they were good players. Yeah, there's, you know, with those guys we just said right there, other than Swift, those other guys have home run hitter ability. Swift has great quickness and things like that. But the one thing all of those guys have over, you know, Javian is the power aspect. They have a little bit more of a power man style to their game that Javian does not have.
Right.
Yeah.
Couple other, I'm just looking through my notes, couple other second-round backs that people don't think we're sliding these backs in the last couple of years. Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. This is where you get them.
I mean, those are superstars.
Right?
I mean, Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon are for me, and Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I mean, if you made me two top 5 running backs in football right now, I'm putting those 3 in there.
I think Ronald Jones was too. I mean,
Ronald
dinged up,
Jones,
but that's-
yeah. I mean, yeah. So
Tampa Bay's happy they
So
have
we've
him.
said, so Derrick Henry. So I mean, man, most of the top backs in football have been second-round picks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll be interested to see where he goes. You know, because I know there's definitely going to be a little bit of a size, you know, question mark with this guy, to where maybe I'm high on him, certainly. And if there is those concerns, then maybe he does end up in the 3rd round, something like that. But I loved his game altogether.
Up at number 2, our second back from North Carolina. And like Javian Hawkins, he's 5'8". He's a little heavier, 199, Michael Carter.
Man, Michael Carter was like the surprise of the draft to me. I mean, I couldn't get over it.
Let's start with why he's two better than Javonte Williams, his teammate.
Yeah, because his quickness, ability to make people miss is elite. His ability to, you know, make people miss and then reaccelerate, it's elite. You know, his ability to, wait, I'm going full speed, and now I got to put on the brakes. Okay, tackler, run by me, and now reaccelerate. His start-stop ability is phenomenal, let alone, unlike Javian, who we just talked about, who's a little bit of a smaller running back, there is somewhat of a powerness to this guy's game. Not that it's going to run you over, but he certainly showed the ability to handle contact and breaks a lot more tackles than you would think when you sit there and watch him for a guy that's 201 or 199 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the big reason. But, you know, to compare him to his teammate, I think he's a more elite physical specimen. And, man, there's just a lot of runs, again, going back to our credo here of where I go, okay, there was 5 yards. Woo! Oh, he broke that guy's ankles. Oh, he broke the next guy's. Oh, he got 27.
Yeah.
It should have been a 6-yard run. He got 27 yards. There's a lot of that. Let alone, we're talking like elite route runner out of the backfield in the pass game, and a willing blocker in the pass game too. Not that he's always gonna, you know, he's 201 pounds or 199. He's not going to be able to stop everybody, but like the will and want to is not the reason. I mean, yeah, he can't, you know, God, he can only overcome so many of God's obstacles. You know, size is one of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if Ray Lewis blitzes, it's going to run him over. I don't care. Yeah, Ray's
Maybe
going
he could slow him down a little.
but he's going to try,
Yeah.
and that's where I give him effort. But, man, that's where I was just really in love with the player. And I think, like, he's a player, too, to talk about he can do a little bit of everything. I think he could be that zone runner and just, boom, hit it. Or he could be that, let me get behind a guard and dance and weave, and, okay, now the hole's there. Let me accelerate and go. He can do either one, and I think that's what I was more impressed with. And I think, honestly, he played faster than his 40 time that he ran at North Carolina.
And his 40 time was?
I think it was like 4.5s there,
Okay.
low 4.5s.
Fine, yeah.
Right.
Pete, I wasn't looking. Did you run the Michael Carter graphic of his production? Okay, there we go. So this is what he did last season, 1,200 yards, 4th in the NCAA. I go right to, Chris, the yards per attempt. 7.9. That's a nearly impossible figure to get. I saw him play in person, and I thought the numbers were maybe a little inflated. I'm glad to hear you talk about all the things you saw, because I saw, okay, Sam Howell's great. We're going to talk about him next year. Throws the hell out of the ball.
Right.
He had a lot of talent out wide.
Definitely.
They line up in the shotgun spread.
Definitely.
Run pass option. He gets the ball, huge gash, runs 10 yards before anybody touches him, maybe 15
there's
yards.
There's some of those runs.
So you talk about a tough eval. What I thought we were going to be getting into was giant numbers, but I don't know how good he is because of the run pass option running through huge holes. And maybe I was a little misled from the one game I saw.
I think it's a legit question. There's no doubt. I think that's where, you know, I just had to get into it again, where it's like, you know, we take Najee Harris. He's running through a big hole. Here's Michael Carter running through a big hole. Okay, hey, that's good. Nice run by Najee Harris. But so many times, I mean, hey, listen, the last thing I wrote, or the second to last thing I wrote, nobody tackles him one-on-one. Nobody. And I wrote, actually, nobody tackles him 2-on-1.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many plays where it's him, like you said, he's run up maybe 8-10 yards, nobody's touched him.
Yeah.
But now it's 2 guys breaking down, and neither one of them come away with a tackle.
Right.
He makes a guy miss and then reaccelerates and runs around the edge, and the other guy can't get the angle, and oh gosh, he got around us. There was 2 of us. I mean, that's where I think I just came away more amazed.
We've been
about his
talking
ability.
about running backs for a while now. That's the best compliment you've paid to anybody yet. I just want to back up and highlight that. Nobody tackles him one-on-one.
Nobody.
Think about how many times in the league, as good as an offensive line is, you got to make somebody miss right away. And if you don't, it's a gain of 1.
That's where
every time.
That's where I think it's special. Even when they miss block plays, one for a smaller guy, he's not afraid to just put his head down and go, okay, there's nothing here. Let me just get up in here for a few yards. But to what you're saying, there's still a number of plays where people get through the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
He makes them miss behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And now we go, oh, look, there he goes.
Yeah.
And we think of it in hindsight and go, well, that was another hole he had that he just ran through. No, there was nothing. They didn't block it.
Right.
He just made it look like it was a highlight run after the fact. And we went, hey, he's running in space.
Yeah.
He's a space runner. No, he's got a little between the tackles, trash ability to do that. And he can make some special things happen, with his pure ability.
In my brief time with the Vikings, and Brian Billick was the offensive coordinator, I remember he'd be up there showing tape of the run game, and every now and then a running back would be out in space, and he would just say, bring your own blocker. Running back, bring your own blocker. And he kept saying it. And a couple of weeks in, I was like, what does he mean, bring your own blocker? I went to Brad Johnson. I'm like, boy, what is bring your own blocker? He's like, he just got to take care of the unblocked guy by himself.
Yeah.
And if he can't do that, he'll get cut.
Yeah.
I would imagine that is said in all 32 buildings. Some version of it. Bring your own blocker, and if you can't, you're in trouble.
They can't block. We can't. There's 10 blockers versus 11 defenders.
Yeah.
Quarterback can't lead the guy through the hole.
Yep.
There's always going to be one extra guy in a play, 2 extra guys.
Maybe a couple.
Yeah. Right. And that's where maybe I value, guys like this maybe more than other people do. I do. And it's where sometimes I value the pure speed like Javian Hawkins too. Because what also gets lost in that, and I wish I would have said this, I'm sorry, is with their acceleration, just like a Michael Carter and, we'll get to a Travis Etienne in a minute, right? Obviously. This is another aspect that gets lost of here's a hole. Okay. Wow, that's right. Najee got 7 yards and somebody clipped his legs or his ankles or anything like that. These top 3 guys get through the hole and don't get touched. That's another thing we miss where we go, oh, well, look, he got 9 yards. He went through that hole. And another part of it to me is going, wait, like elite running backs run through that hole and nobody gets a hand on them. Their speed gets them through there before the gap can ever close or somebody can actually make the tackle to trip them up or do any of that. And to me, that's where the top 3 guys, I think, separate themselves a little bit from the class because they can do that. Yes, make things happen to like what you're saying when nothing's there, but also, hey, a hole's there and it's going to close in a millisecond in the NFL. They can get through it and, come out the other side, clean and looking pretty.
Before we get to your number 1 guy, that's, as much as you like Michael Carter, did you sit down and give real thought to having him as your top guy?
I did. I really was like, I got a little caught up with how awesome it was. I'm not expecting it to where I at first was like, ooh, I wrote might be the best running back in the class. I wrote that. Because I was like, man, I didn't expect this. I'd already done Etienne and Harris and Javonte Williams, and I just wasn't expecting to this guy to just pop off like this. So yeah, there was some thought. But ultimately, what led me back to it when I had to really accept, when I read back through my notes, I just went, oh, no. There's a guy that I have that's clearly the number 1, and I'm not going to get to it yet. But just to get a picture of players, right, that I think of Michael Carter. Devontae Freeman is the first one that comes to my mind, right? Guys remember him from the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Again, not long careers.
But he was awesome for a little while.
He was awesome. I mean, I'm going to say, I don't know, probably 3,000-yard seasons, maybe a 4th. I don't know, but it was really damn good. He's that kind of guy. Philip Lindsay, that, similar that way, right? Now, Philip Lindsay, we're talking, he's falling apart too here. Even Edwards-Helaire from last year, except I just wrote, I think he's got more speed than Edwards-Helaire. Edwards-Helaire had a little bit more power. So I'm interested to see how this guy translates to the NFL.
Pete, you just said something to me. I couldn't make out the last word. Did it matter that he was running back by committee?
It's like a positive. It's a positive. I mean, He doesn't. For a small running back, you're getting a guy to go. He hasn't been killed a lot.
Yeah.
They let the other guy get killed just as much.
Who's your fifth guy?
So that's a good thing. I honestly, I think that's going to be valued by teams to look at that and go. Again, Josh Jacobs, right? That was one of the things we talked about him coming out of the draft 2 years ago. He didn't get a lot of carries. I do think these college coaches are thinking about these running backs and their futures a little bit and starting to go like, wait, let's not kill this guy to where he gets to the NFL and he can't even make any money because we've crushed him at our college.
Yeah.
I think there is a conscious effort there from these guys to rotate them a little bit.
No, your number one guy certainly had a lot of touches these last
yes, he did.
4 years. No surprise. Travis Etienne out of Clemson, 5'10", 215.
Yeah.
All time, the most productive running back in the history of the ACC.
Just the most complete running back in the draft. There's no doubt about that for me. I mean, that's really where, I'll make my bold statement more than anything. Reminds me of a guy we've talked about a little bit. To me, the playing style is almost Alvin Kamara-ish. Kareem Hunt is who. Those are the two guys I came away thinking that's really what he plays like. And I think his measurables are probably somewhat close to them as well. Okay, can run for 60-yard touchdowns. Check, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can run between the tackles and break tackles. Man, can he break some tackles. Yeah. I mean, he's got a great pair of legs and ass. He's got power to him. And, not that he's an ankle breaker, maybe like, Javian Hawkins or Michael Carter, but he's got a smoothness into which he runs and a subtle ability to change direction to make people miss and never really lose speed. It's hard for me to explain. He can kind of just weave and flow through traffic. It's not like, oh, your ankles are broke. It's kind of just like, hey, I'm running 4.5, and oh, wait, hold on, I got to weave over this way, and oh, now I'm going to spin off this guy as he hits me, and now I'm going to re-accelerate. Yeah. He's got a great way about, again, like I don't want to say it's elite quickness, but a great way to change direction without really having to regather himself or lose speed.
Yeah.
He can kind of make that right-hand turn and make somebody miss, and oh man, I was going to hit you, and now it's just my forearm and your thigh, and now he's turning to the right and running down the sidelines for a big gain. That's where he's really special to me.
Taking a look at some of his measurables for everybody who can watch along with us. 40-yard dash, 4.41. All of the athletic measurables, I don't know. I mean, what you make of him, 5'10", 215, but when you watch him, he can really go. I saw him play 3 times in person, Chris, and what really jumped out to me made him a little different than a lot of the other just really good backs. He had this way, and anticipation is a quarterback thing, but if it can be a running back thing for this conversation, when he got the handoff, if there was a hole that needed him to be at full speed when he hit it.
Thank you.
He was at full speed at the line of scrimmage instead of getting through it and kind of, I can sprint now.
Yes.
He was at top speed when everybody else was kind of trying to figure out the play. And I feel like he hit some big plays because of that quality.
There's no doubt. One of the last things I wrote, and I'm glad because you and I were thinking alike here a little bit, and this is not planned out, but it was one of the deceiving things about it because he can be a patient runner.
Yeah.
He's got a great way. Again, here's another guy where I go, I think he can play in any scheme. He can follow pulling guards and fullbacks. He can play the zone scheme. He's got great patience. But so you could watch 8 or 10 runs and go, there's nothing there. And he's kind of feeling out, waiting for his little hole or seam to hit. But when he sees what he wants,
gone.
His acceleration, I wrote, it's way better than you expect or think. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is. There's so many times, again, going back to our previous point, where he sees what he wants, he hits the hole, and now he gets through it before the second level can close it.
Yeah.
And now he's gone, whether it's the screen game or the run game or whatever it is. And that's where I just come away and just think, he's the top running back in the draft. He's got no weakness to his game. He's a really natural pass catcher, can run routes, can make big plays, can get tough yards between the tackles. Of course, has played against a lot of big-time football. His speed, his top-end speed is, it's good. It's not great. And when I say good, it's not great. I mean, it's good where he'll go for 50 and 60-yard touchdowns in the NFL. He's not going to go for 80 and 90-yard touchdowns. That's for the Javian Hawkins type guy. That's that kind of guy. But, I think when you take all that in there and how slippery and smooth he is running through the holes or to make people miss and everything that way, I just couldn't come away and put anybody ahead of him as far as the running backs are concerned.
I want to go back and plug in a couple things to your points. You talk about what a strength he can be in the passing game. 85 catches the last 2 years. Think about that. He caught 85 balls as a running back and averaged over 12 yards per catch. So, again, not just the check down, fall forward for 6 yards. He was getting 10 plus on average.
They're running
with those 85 receptions.
He's an unreal catch the screen, got great feel to follow the blockers and do those things, running wheel routes out of the backfield. I mean, if you try to match him man-to-man with the will linebacker, have fun. See how that goes. I don't know. He's going to catch a ball short in the flat and make that guy miss and then get yards, or that guy's going to overplay him thinking he's going to run a short route to the flat and he's going to turn it up and run by him.
Right.
So, I'm with you. And then that's where I get back to the, Kamara, Kareem Hunt type of player where I just go, think about those two guys. Run between the tackles. They can do that. They can run over a guy every now and then, or they go through the hole, and especially Kamara, he's got this same way where it's just like the feet are close to the ground, and, okay, I'm running through the hole, and boom, somebody hits me, but I kind of edge off them and spin, and now I'm up on the next level for a few more yards, and, you go, wow, that was a 12-yard run. That should have been a 5-yard run. But he had that great ability, let alone, don't get him out in the edge where he's one-on-one or one-on-two on people, and he might be able to outrun you for a big play or make some people miss that way too. Yeah, that's where I was really impressed with the player that way.
I had written down, Chris, that more explosive than elusive. Is that a concern? Is it a compliment?
No, I think that's all right. That's right.
Is that fair?
It is fair. It is. It's power and explosion. The elusiveness goes back to, I think, what we're talking about. You don't see a lot of highlight. The guy broke down to tackle him and he shook him and you didn't even touch him. That's where he's not elusive. He's kind of like, catch the ball and I'm coming at you. Are you just going to be able to hit me square and take me down? He's going to kind of make you get on the edge or just give you a little something and then try to beat you with a little speed. So, it's not the elusive the way maybe a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or a Michael Carter is, to where they can really make you look silly in the hole.
Yeah.
He's going to make you silly just because you're going to go, well, you didn't make the tackle. And now he's running up the sideline for 30 yards, even though it didn't make you look that big of a fool. You just didn't make the tackle.
Couple of team questions. I think these are always fun to get into, and people like to hear about them as well. So let's get down into the 20s and kind of make the turn here at 23. I picked out 23 and 24. So let's say this plays out the way we expect. Nobody's taking a running back. Jets come up at 23. They got their quarterback at 2. Would it be a good call to go with their favorite running back? Let's say it's Etienne at 23.
No, I don't think it would be. I would say they have other needs there at that point.
Okay.
And I don't, I like Etienne and all of that. There's no doubt. I don't think he's as good as Josh Jacobs maybe coming out a few years ago.
Okay.
If that just puts it. But if you got into the second round with the Jets and that, then I think you could certainly start talking about that conversation.
So if the Jets don't take him at 23, here's the Steelers at 24.
Oof.
Offensive tackle looks pretty good, but there's a couple already gone. Best running backs there. How about Pittsburgh at 24?
Yeah, I'm still saying go to tackle.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about,
just
like last year, we get to the last pick. The Super Bowl champs are there at 32. Chiefs went Edwards-Helaire last year. Would you like it if they took Etienne, the Buccaneers?
No, I wouldn't. I'd say just you got Fournette back. Ronald Jones was your go-to guy anyways. And they got Keyshawn Vaughn, who they drafted last year out of Vanderbilt. He's a pretty good player, right? So, I would say no, just stand pat. And I'm actually trying to pull up the draft order just as far as teams that would make sense or anything like that.
Are you into the second round now?
Yeah, I'm just thinking damn, I pressed the wrong one. But I look at teams like, of course, I think there's a need for the Atlanta Falcons at the top of the second round. Will that start the run of running backs? Maybe it will start with the Jets at the top of the second round there. But I think there's a number of teams you can kind of get them. Miami at 36, there's a need for running back there.
Yeah.
So Those are three teams right at the top of the second where you look at and go, that might be the start of where you see the little running back run go. There's certainly needs with the Jets, Falcons, and Dolphins. But no, I don't come away thinking that any of these guys are first-round talents this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the history of the draft, the teams are probably thinking the same way.
And I'm not even sure if I would think Josh Jacobs is a first-rounder, really, now. You know,
go either way.
I think if you look at it now, I'd probably go, no, he should have been like top half of the second round.
You'd feel great about getting him there, right?
There's no doubt. You'd feel unbelievable about getting him there. But I think we see these run of running backs, start somewhere in the second round. We'll see a bunch of them go in the second and third.
Yeah, 5 in round 2 last year, 3 in round 3, 4 in round 4. So, I mean, likely a similar kind of pattern. So let's take a peek at what we just had there for the top 5 running backs. At 1 from Clemson, Travis Etienne. Out of North Carolina, Michael Carter at 2. Javian Hawkins, Louisville, 3. Najee Harris, a lot of people's 1 and 2, shows up at 4 for Chris. And Javonte Williams at 5, also former Tar Heel.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep, there it is. Top 5 running backs. Thank you, Applebee's.
Presented by Applebee's. Yes.
Prospect rundown.
So you know what has to happen now.
Yeah.
Because that top 5, there are some very good players always that don't make the list. People are wondering, what about this player?
Sure.
You ready for a couple of whatabouts?
Yeah.
Okay, what about Chuba Hubbard out of Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Crazy production in the Big 12. At Blessed TM2 says, hey, Chris, why are people acting like Chuba Hubbard didn't have an elite season in 2019? He's a track star with great vision, and he is tough, too.
He is. He said it all right there. He said it all right, and, again, this is where you got to get into, don't just look at stats and production. Mm-hmm. First off, it's the Big 12. It's a definite space conference. Everybody's thinking pass game all the time. There's no doubt about that. But the big thing is going back to, what we've talked about a number of times here. There's just not enough, pure, raw explosiveness to be a top running back in the draft. He's got great change of direction and size. The track athlete thing, though, I don't see that type of speed. I think that's where I would come back to. His acceleration and burst are slightly above average for what we're talking about with, NFL running backs. And I think that's ultimately, my biggest issue and why he wouldn't be, in the top 2 or 3 rounds. I think he's more of a late mid-round pick. I would think he's going to go somewhere around there, 5th round.
Trenton Clark brings up a question that not only fits for Hubbard, but just kind of bigger picture with these guys who touch the ball and put up giant numbers. How does someone like Hubbard fill out a stat sheet in college so well, but doesn't translate well to the league?
Yeah, well, again, the offenses are so wide open in college football. And, of course, they get to run 100 plays a game. It's somewhere between 85 and 100 plays a game. And he's getting to run the ball where, hey, Oklahoma State's thrown the ball 12 times in a row. And, okay, now it's a draw against the perfect pass defense. And now we're running the ball to a great look. And, okay, we got 4 receivers out and everything's spread. And we ran a draw play and the Red Sea part's great, 12 yards. Woo, great. And I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm just trying to explain how, college football works. Okay, now it's another few plays. They've thrown the ball. And now it's, hey, they're dropping back. Looks like they're looking deep to throw the ball again. Oh, it's a screen. Everybody's way down the field. He catches a screen. And now he's got 20-yard reception on the screen play. So that's where I tell everybody, don't get so obsessed with production. We can go through college football, and every conference has got running backs where you go, that's elite production. That's elite production. That's elite production. That's elite production. It's running back in college football right now. So, again, it's about what's there to be had, what's going to translate in the NFL. That's the big thing. Don't necessarily look at it always about filling the stat sheet. Alvin Kamara did not fill in the stat sheet at Tennessee. And
it's pretty good.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers it.
Thinking of big numbers in college, Trey Sermon from Ohio State also didn't make your list. Hank Mardukas. Is that a reference to I Love You, Man?
It might be, right?
Are you familiar? The movie I Love You, Man?
Yeah, of course, right.
I think it is, Pete. If it is, that's outstanding. Very underrated movie. Hank Mardukas asks, why aren't people higher on Trey Sermon?
I think that it's the same conversation of what we're having with some of these other guys. It's just he's got a little bit of everything. got some good strength, decent size. We know he can catch the football, but there's just a lack of elite explosiveness or no elite trait, I guess is what I would just say. You know, I just came away thinking, you know, he's a mid-round pick more than not. You know, he has some good hips to weave through traffic, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to, like, break your ankles or do anything that way. You know, start-stop ability was just okay. Power was just okay. You know, and acceleration and speed were just okay. You know, again, you got to remember, he's playing at Ohio State with some great players around him, and the game is wide open, and you're worried about Justin Fields running the ball, and you're worried about Olave, or I think that's how you say his name, the receiver who's going to be a top 20 pick next year. They're worried about him. So that's, you know, to me, the big thing more than anything. Got some nice game to him, there's no doubt, but just not a top 3-round pick at the running back position for me.
Out of Memphis, Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah.
At Ben Money Morris wants to know, Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis is a prospect I've seen fluctuate among draft analysts. Is it because he didn't play this year? What are your thoughts on him?
No, he's an intriguing watch. He is a fun watch, smaller running back, you know, a little bit like our Javian Hawkins, except he's not quite as explosive or quite as fast. And there's a total, how do I want to say, just a space element to his game, Paul. There's nothing he brings in the breaking tackles, going to be able to run the ball between the tackles department at the running back position. You know, again, Javonte Williams is a great comparison because they're similar guys in size and the way they move and all that. But like Javian Hawkins, I saw him take on middle linebackers from Miami and bounce off and get 5 other yards and all that. Like Kenneth Gainwell, it's like, hey, the guy's arm touched you, he's going down. That's just the way he is. So he's a total space guy that way. You know, I didn't think he could really pass protect at all or do anything like that. For me, he was almost more of like a slot receiver / third down running back type of guy. That's where he'll, I think, fit in the NFL. Really natural pass catcher, you know, real good acceleration, like I said. You can't accelerate like the top guys. So, you know, again, when you're that size, you got to have something elite about your speed or quickness or anything like that. I thought it was real good, but I don't think it was elite, in my opinion.
Pete, with a good assist, remind me to back up with an honorable mention, someone who was on your list, I think, for a while.
Big
but
boy?
didn't quite make it. Rhamondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma, 6 feet, 230. So why did he almost make your top 5, but not quite?
Because, you know, that, first off, that's what he weighed at his pro day.
Yeah.
Most people think he weighed in mid-240s. It looks like it. His ass and legs look like they're 245. I know that. I mean, for that size, he's got incredible feet. You know, incredible. I mean, it's right up there with the top running backs in the game that way. Now, he doesn't have, like, the pure physicality that you would expect for somebody that big, but, man, catches the ball well, you know, certainly is not easy to bring down because of the size and power that he has that way. And to be able to move that way at 240-something, yeah, I wrote down he's LeGarrette Blount almost that way. You know, LeGarrette Blount, maybe Jordan Howard. You remember him a few years ago?
Yeah, Bears.
Yeah, Bears,
Indiana,
right?
think,
Yep, exactly. It was the Eagles, too.
Yeah.
Out of Indiana, exactly right.
Yeah.
To me, it was that type of guy. So, you know, really good player. I think he'd be one of those guys we see go in the 2nd and 3rd round. To me, it'll probably be that weight question.
Yeah.
It's just about, like, whether teams feel comfortable about him being able to control that. But I was impressed with the size of the player and the ability to move that way.
Pete from home with access to my ear, that's not a handle, that's just my description of this question, wants to know who has the best legs and ass in this class.
Oh. His are up there, but the whole class, or are you talking about running backs alone?
Running backs.
Yeah.
Just running backs. Yeah.
Running backs here. Let me see here. I mean, Etienne's to me, I think, are the most perfect blend of what I like. Not that it's just this wow, oh my gosh, I could put a pitcher of water on top of his ass, but it's like, okay, there's some muscle there and some power, and then he's got a great blend of power legs, and that's why I wrote Kamara and Kareem Hunt, where it's like there's this power, but yet it looks like he could be a bigger receiver type element to his legs too, where it's not like so thick and powerful, yet there's still a speed aspect to it. So I don't know. I guess I'm saying Etienne is what I like the most.
He's the winner. I mean, he's the double winner. He's number one rated back, and more importantly,
number one legs and ass. Yes.
Only one glass of water, though. One pitcher.
Only one. Yeah,
I think the offensive lineman, someone was up to like 3.
Yeah, there's probably a few we've hit on. You're right. There was I can't remember who it was we were talking about. We were talking about the defensive tackle, I think. Shelvin from LSU.
Yes,
you could put
big Shelvin.
You could put a gallon container on top of that ass, all right? And that thing's going to stay there, and you're going to be good.
We got some team questions, and some people are thinking the same way I am, because I've already asked basically some of these. I want to get to ones that we haven't touched on yet.
Yeah.
How about 49ers from Ray Martinez? Which running backs do you think the Niners should target second to third round to shore up their backfield?
Ooh,
Who would be a nice fit there in that offense?
Well, listen, you heard me say Javian Hawkins reminds me of Mostert or Breida. Well, yeah, those are two 49ers guys. I mean, to me, that would be the guy that, Shanahan, could like, because that goes along like the zone scheme runner we talked about, where it's like, toss the ball or outside zone, kind of like, okay, I got the ball. Let me just read where's my hole. Oh, there it is. Now let me put my foot in the ground and run through it 1,000 miles per hour and run like my hair's on fire. That could be the guy that I think, they would look at. Be interested. I'm going to be interested to see if they go running back at all early on in the draft. They do have, of course, Mostert there. Jeff Wilson's still there. But I think Shanahan's always looking to add to that room. I just don't expect it to be, second or third round.
Okay.
I think that it might be one of those they wait later on in the draft. And just to add that too, there's a guy named Kylan Hill from Mississippi State who, down the draft type of guy, that's got some of that Javian Hawkins type ability and speed too. He's a little bit of a tough eval, a little bit, but man, there's some plays on there where he gets the ball and goes, and you go, whoa, that's a different speed right there. He could be one of those guys that comes up later on in the draft.
Let's think Ravens here at Hernan Favela. Should the Ravens draft a running back to make their running game ferocious? I want to add a couple things. Let's say, should they draft him rounds 2, 3, and 4? And they did take J.K. Dobbins round 2 last year.
Yeah, I would say no. They have J.K. I'm a big fan of Gus Edwards. I think Gus Edwards is a great compliment to J.K. He's just a smash mouth hammer in between the tackles. Got a little good foot quickness and things like that. Yeah, he's not going to break long runs. That's why I said he's Najee Harris in a lot of ways. It's that guy. And they also have Justice Hill there, right? So he's from Oklahoma State. They drafted him a few years ago. I don't think this is a position they'll be looking to address, in the first 2, 3 rounds. I don't expect it.
Steelers, once again, and we already talked about the fact that you don't think any of the running backs are going to go in the first round, or they shouldn't, so we won't spend time with that 24th pick. But Ralph Del Sardo says, Chris, love the pod. Steelers need a running back. Want them to go O-line in round 1.
Yeah.
Who might be the best available by the time they get to pick 56 in round 2? So it's a specific question, but if you can zoom out and look at it, do you think any of your top 5 backs will be there late in the second round?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility. I do. I think there could be maybe 2 or 3 of those guys sitting there, and I would think that's about the time they're going to start thinking about it. Unless, again, it's going to be all about how their board lines up and things like that. O-line is their number 1 need. Like, I wouldn't be shocked, first off, if Pittsburgh ended up going like offensive lineman with the first 2 picks of the draft. I really wouldn't be shocked. They need guys that can plug and play right now. I think they're a team that's looking on it like they don't want projects or anything like that. So I think that, yes, there'll be some of those guys there. Will they actually take one in the second round? I'm going to say no. I don't. I think they're going to wait a little longer, down the draft and try to steal somebody that way. And maybe that's where, a Larry Roundtree from Missouri comes into play, or maybe the Rhamondre Stevens, or, I'm trying to think of some of the other guys that would maybe be, again, the Kylan Hill, of course, I do like him. Khalil Herbert from Virginia Tech. Those could be guys that you could see off the board somewhere in the 4th and 5th round and really help a team out.
I'm backing up now to the original page 1 here.
Yeah.
of the rundown. Pete, are we ready to start back at the top since we got right back in the rankings?
Do it.
Okay, so this is under the category of Ask Me Anything. Mac Jones to the Niners, that idea is the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, it does.
For all of us here. Bomani Jones had an interesting argument. There we go. Let's take a peek at this. He says, bottom line, if you ever said Kirk Cousins is my ideal quarterback, you ain't no damn genius. And if he reminds me of Kirk Cousins, makes you take a guy at 3, you took Cousins in the 4th round, you are a fool, which is why I kind of think the 49ers go Lance or Fields. And I say that because I just don't think Kyle Shanahan is a moron, and only a moron would trade the farm to draft Mac Jones.
Well, listen, I'm a big fan of Bomani, okay?
Me too.
And leave that on there, okay, for a second. So, first off, this guy's more talented than Kirk Cousins coming out of the draft. That's the one thing. And people have used that name to compare, like, listen, these are the kind of quarterbacks Shanahan likes and has been successful with. It doesn't mean we're going, eye for eye, talent-wise here. No, Mac Jones is more impressive than Kirk Cousins coming out. It's not close there, actually. That's why we're talking about one guy being in the top 10 and another guy that was, a 4th-round pick that way. So that I think is not being fair to Mac Jones. There's more talent that way. Now, also, okay, within this, and Mac Jones, and maybe he's, never going to be a top 3 or top 5 quarterback in football. But I think what you look at him as is you go, wait, I think this guy could be a slam dunk top 10 quarterback for a long, long time. And that, to me, is worth trading up to number 3 for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other aspect of this, and this is the other element I hear about, a lot with this conversation, is just, the quarterback thing. And see, Mac Jones needs Shanahan's help and the system to work, and, Justin Fields doesn't, or Trey Lance doesn't. I want to go, why? Why don't they need help? Because they can run? Is that all we're basing on, help now? Or is that all we're top-end ceiling, potential seems to only be about whether you can run. That's all that matters now. There's no other way to grow or have potential unless you can be fast. Mm-hmm. No, that's bullcrap. Mac Jones has plenty of areas to grow as a thrower, and he's going to grow. He is going to grow as a thrower. And one thing I would say is he can learn to throw with more power. And even though his arm is really damn good and all of those issues. Justin Fields, there is real questions about his game. So, yeah, am I excited about what Shanahan could do with the Justin Fields? Yes, I am, certainly. Do I sit here and just go, Justin Fields will be able to take advantage of all the things Mac Jones will be in the run game? Of course he is. Yes, he's going to be way better in the run game. And Shanahan's going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with him if that's the quarterback. But I would also go vice versa and go, but Justin Fields is not going to be able to take advantage of some of the things or a lot of the things Mac Jones can do in the pass game. That's being swept under the rug here in this conversation. It's just like, wait, he's fast. Oh, wait, that other guy has those other advantages? Oh, forget about it. We won't talk about those. Let's just talk about my guy. He's fast, and he can run, and he's got a really strong arm. Yeah, I understand that. But there's real questions about him being able to throw the ball accurately, make the right decisions, and do that. They're real. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. And that just seems to be the constant conversation with this quarterback thing right now.
Right. I think people are underrating, too, that even if you're not overwhelmed with any given series or quarter of Mac Jones, people are underrating what an elite skill it is if he does indeed have it. And there's reasons to watch and think of making the right decision and putting the ball in the right place most of the time. That's an elite skill as much as any other wow kind of physical attribute you might have.
Almost all the time. Like it's as good as we've ever seen. It's as good as I've ever seen.
Think about why they came off of, in my understanding, being super excited about Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not because he stinks and can't play. There were a couple moments in big games where he wasn't accurate and the ball didn't go where it was supposed to.
Yeah. Right.
So if you can get that much better at that position with those qualities,
right,
your team can win those big games.
Right. I think the fair assessment, like if Bomani would take away Kirk Cousins, which was very fitting for his tweet there to make his point.
Yeah.
But if you put it with Matt Ryan, then tell me what you think.
Right.
Because it's about that type of player. And I think that's what Shanahan's looking at, going, wait, I had 2 seasons with Matt Ryan, and we were this damn close to winning a Super Bowl. I think if you give me a few more cracks at it with a guy like Mac Jones, we will win the Super Bowl.
So at Nick Potter 20 says, hi from Sydney, Australia. If we subbed out Kellen Mond for Mac Jones at Alabama this year, what stats would he put up?
Yeah.
Would the offense have been any different?
No, it would have been very, very similar. Yeah.
Because he was in the mid to high 70s, wasn't he?
You put Kellen Mond there. You put him in BYU. I think it's going to be really good stats and things. You put him in Clemson. They're still going to be in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it with the Kellen Mond thing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you. I'm not like I'm a huge believer in everything about the guy and his talent. I really am. And yes, I just think that with that question, yes, certainly. I think if you put him on one of those other teams, there's more hype around him, and we're talking about him a different way.
Well, why do you think that one hasn't caught fire the way the Mac Jones thing has? That for as many people that want to come after Mac and say, oh, he's Kirk Cousins, he's average, there are people that say, you know what, if you really watch, he is worth a first-round pick. Not hearing about Kellen Mond as much that way.
I don't.
Why do you think that is?
I really don't. I don't have an answer for you. You know, I do think it's like over the last 10 days, 2 weeks, I've heard his name a lot more of like, I've turned on some radio things like on Sirius, and they're, oh, Kellen Mond could be the first quarterback off in the second round and that type of stuff. So we'll see. But I don't have an honest answer for you. I know, like I've said to you, and I think I've said this to you, I've had a few friends and people in the NFL over the last 2 weeks too also reach out to me and been like, hey, I saw what you saw or said about Kellen Mond, and man, I'm with you. It's super intriguing and that stuff. I don't know if that means anything as far as where he's drafted, but I mean, again, I'd sit here and argue against some of the other quarterbacks who have been drafted in the first round over the last 10 years. Man, there's a bunch I would take Kellen Mond over, that's for sure.
Let's get it back to Justin Fields a little bit. This is from at Jerry Finsta, and I like the whole comp thing, so you can take this wherever you want here. I think it's a fun thing to do this time of year. What up, Chris? You the man. Love your show. You've said that Justin Fields has elite running. How does he compare to Lamar going into the draft in both throwing and running?
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. First off, I would go throwing-wise. Listen, I really didn't have any questions about Lamar throwing. That's why I loved Lamar when he came out. I just thought it was a really natural, gifted, throwing motion. It wasn't always perfect, but for the most part, I really liked what I saw out of him in Louisville, and he wanted to throw first, as I've said many times. It was, whoa, let me sit in the pocket and go through reads and try to do the right thing with the football. That was the thing I really liked, let alone he didn't need a lot of space in the pocket. He had a really quick release. I mean, really quick. And that, to me, is where I would say it's a little different from Justin Fields. Again, Justin Fields, the little hitch in the throwing motion with how he throws the elbow up and does that, and then the elongated steps and footwork and stuff like that. There was no questions like that I had with Lamar coming out in the draft. Now, running-wise, it's different than Lamar.
Not as good as...
It's not as electric. No, Lamar was like, oh, my gosh, this is unbelievable.
Right.
This is crazy. This is still really good, and there's more of a power element. To me, it's more of a Cam Newton running. That's the comparison I've used. To me, he's Cam Newton just a hair shorter than what he was coming out. He can run you over. He can kind of fake run you over, and he spins off you. He's great at doing that. And he can make people miss and do stuff that way, but not like Lamar. Lamar is just such a special runner. It was unreal watching him.
Broncos, they pick at number 9.
Yeah.
Luisco 303, love the pod. Who should the Broncos take at 9? Take a quarterback or trade back maybe for more picks?
Well,
people make assumptions that there's all these good offers to trade back, and it's
not always
really
that
easy to do.
No. I mean, I think the thing I would come back to, with the Broncos, first off, is quarterback. Like, it's a weird position to put Vic Fangio in. Mm-hmm. It's like a make or break year.
Yeah.
And we're going to draft a quarterback at number 9.
Who might be the 5th quarterback by then? It's at least going to be the 4th.
Right.
At that point, is he better than Drew Lock?
I don't know. I just don't see them going that way. That to me would be one where I don't think they're going to do quarterback. And really, hey, the two teams that everybody think are going to take quarterback in the top 10 now are the Detroit Lions and the Denver Broncos, which I want to sit here and go, I don't think either one are going to take him. I think it's just a nice, easy spot for everybody doing their mock drafts right now to put quarterback in and go, all right, I'm done with that spot. I didn't really have to think about what the team needed. I wanted to get my top 5 quarterbacks off the board because I've been saying they're top 10 picks the whole year, so I just got to get it off somehow.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that with the Broncos or the Lions. So the Broncos, when I look at them, offensive lineman could be something they get in the conversation for. Linebacker maybe would be another one I'd look at for them. Or, it could be a trade down type of scenario.
If it's available.
Let's see. They've signed Ronald Darby, right? And Kyle Fuller. So corner, they're okay. Safety, they're okay. I'm sorry. I'm just going through this checklist in my head. Pass rusher, it's Von Miller and Chubb. They could maybe think about a pass rusher for the future if they wanted to think about this might be Von's last year. They don't need receivers. To me, it makes the most sense, I think, for it to be maybe one of the middle linebackers, maybe Micah Parsons. I haven't evaluated them completely yet, so I can't tell you for sure.
Right.
But I think it's that or offensive line, I think, that jumps out to me.
Totally see your logic with Denver there at 9, especially with the quarterback thing.
Yeah.
But Detroit at 7.
I know, right? What do you think?
Well, there is, I think you mentioned a very good point with Denver, with Vic Fangio. It might be, it is a huge year for him.
Yeah.
In Detroit, you have a new regime. I know you don't love Jared Goff. Maybe he plays better than he did the last couple seasons, but why not go quarterback at 7 there?
I would think they'd want to see if they could make this work with Jared Goff, I guess. Did you just trade him just to trade him?
Right.
Or Matthew Stafford? So you're just trading away Matthew Stafford and just going, hey, we're going to bring Goff in and we're just going to throw him to the side.
Maybe they just didn't want his contract anymore and Goff's a nice backup.
I know. I don't know what my heart of hearts, and I have no inside info here, is that I think they're going to try to give Jared Goff a legit chance here to see if they can't do this. And they're going to play a style of football with Dan Campbell and Anthony Lynn where it's going to be run the ball, smash mouth football, and do that type of stuff. And I would think the Lions are definitely a team that's sitting there thinking about an offensive lineman.
Yeah, at Mitchell Job says, if Penei Sewell falls to the Lions at 7, how fast do they make that pick?
Yeah, 10-4. What's the vector? They gotta do that. I know. And there's a real possibility. He could be there if the Bengals don't take him at 5.
Right.
I would think that the Lions are going to be sitting there pretty, with whatever offensive lineman they want, and they need another guy on that offensive line. It's just not a special unit.
You bring up the Bengals at 5. That's perfect. At M Smudge 1984, he says, would you like the Bengals to take a wide receiver or a tackle at 5?
Take the tackle. There's just no guarantee that a really elite tackle will be there at the top of the second. So I would go, well, you got Joe Mixon, you got Joe Burrow. Let's protect it. Let's get a hole open for Joe Mixon once every other 7 years instead of that and do that on a consistent basis. And there's a lot of good damn receivers that I think you could get in the top of the second, just like they got T. Higgins last year. You got him at the top of the second. Who knows what's there? Terrace Marshall Jr., the kid from LSU, could be there at the top of the second. He's a first-round talent. And so, I think there'll be more options that way than vice versa of rolling the dice, taking the receiver or Pitts at 5, and then going, well, I hope one of those good tackles is still there at the top of the second. To me, that's too risky.
Pete, I missed you there. What'd you just say?
Oh, De'Ami Brown, you're exactly
right.
Wide
receiver.
He could be that guy that's there. Yes, I obviously seem higher on De'Ami Brown than most people out there. I think he's kind of viewed in the community right now as kind of an end of the first round, top of the second type guy. De'Ami Brown, you bring him up and I want to go, oh, give him Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Watch the bombs. Or maybe I need to change that song.
Maybe
Give him
De'Ami
Brown, Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy.
There you go. I was going to say, you should change your opinion there to the form of a question.
Yeah, right.
While he's still
Who
hosting.
is De'Ami Brown?
Who is De'Ami Brown? What do you think? Is he doing well there?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I didn't watch Friday's show. I'll watch tonight again.
see
But
that one either.
it's been good.
Yeah.
It's been really good.
Quick-minded. He's done a
Of
nice
course,
job.
Of course, yes. He's
Yeah.
all over. And I think I'm more and more him as seems to come out here as we go along.
Hosting's tough, man. Hosting can make you not yourself.
I would think so.
In a heartbeat.
Right.
Yeah, so
and you got to be really quick on that show.
Yeah,
Holy crap.
it can make people like talk like they're not their normal selves, or
Right.
think like they're not their normal selves. And I think his learning curve has been awfully good.
Yeah.
You ready for some D tackles?
Yeah.
Okay. Got a couple with your D tackle rankings. Pete,
Okay.
can we throw that up there? The defensive tackle rankings. There
Boom.
we go.
Big boys.
Yes, there's the top 5 list. Boy, Big Levi from Washington. I left my pronunciation guide at home.
Onzarike.
Yes. Barmore at 2, Shelvin at 3, McNeil 4, and Tufele, Pete, with the quick-minded assist. Very good. Pete's ready to host Jeopardy
Pete's
himself.
ready.
Okay, so at DCon90 says, before last season, I saw talks of Marvin Wilson from Florida State being similar to Derek Brown. I've seen him all over the place in the rankings, including not on your top 5. Where do you have him and why?
Yeah, it was down there. It was, I really think he's a middle of the round pick. The biggest thing is there's balance issues in Marvin Wilson's game. He's too top heavy. He honestly, I think, was better 2 years ago when he was just a bigger all-around human being, but he's got kind of like smaller man legs with a 330-pound top. And he is on the ground a lot and can be pushed around that way. Doesn't take on double teams that way. To me, it's like he's got to make a decision of does he want to continue to transform and be ultra quick, or does he want to go back to eating a lot and just be ultra big? Because he's kind of stuck in between, right now. For what he is, I just was not impressed with his ability to hold up or be stout that way, take on double teams, and then the quickness, it's good for that size, but it's not like, oh, wow, I'm so impressed, and he's going to be able to disrupt with quickness all the time. So, I look at him to be more of like a 4th-round type of pick.
At Kramer the First, Chris loved the show. It's a must-listen. Thoughts on Tommy Togiai from Ohio State?
Tommy Togiai is really close to being – he's a lot like Tufele. Tufele. I know. Damn it. I got to work on these names. He's a lot like him, out of USC. Got some legit quickness, pretty explosive off the ball, certainly can, get off blocks and do things like that. There was a lot to like about his game altogether. I really thought he was just like a lesser version of Tufele.
Yes.
Shit.
Ding, ding, ding.
Similar to that, but like a good, loose, fluid athlete. And for me, he was really probably that next group of guys down. If I had to do the next 5 after my top 5, he would have been in that group right there. Really good player. Not going to say I'll sit here and go, oh, wow, but some legit quick, pretty good change of direction skills for 300 pounds. He did do some 2-gapping. I just don't think that's going to be his thing in the NFL. But his get off and ability to get under blocks, I thought that was, and get under your pads was the best thing he does. But I think he's a guy that probably goes in the 3rd round somewhere.
One more D lineman question. This from @ScoopHeiferlegs.
What up,
What do
Scoop?
you think of Jalen Twyman from Pittsburgh?
Jalen Twyman, I love the athlete for the most part. I love the movement and things like that. I think the biggest thing that I didn't like about Twyman, and when I say I like the movement, just to explain that to people, and I wish anybody would watch this on YouTube so you could always see what the way he moves and changes directions and things like that, it's that of a high-level athlete. To where you go, oh, this guy looks, he's got some bend in his hips, he can change direction and, runs pretty well. But the pure power of the player is just not enough. I think that's the thing. He's undersized a little bit and not twitchy enough to make up for the undersize that way, and yet, not powerful enough to wow you to be the undersized guy. Just wasn't special that way. So he's another guy that I looked at to go, I think he's more of a mid-round pick, really probably a rotational guy when it comes down to it. I don't think he's a starting NFL defensive tackle. I think he's really probably a guy that's like, first off your bench, second team guy that can do that. But just not enough special about the guy to be drafted in the first 3 rounds of the draft.
I've got some other questions circled here. We're going to have to get to them next time. I've got the word that it is that time.
It is that time.
It's that time of the day.
Woo, that means it was an hour and a half.
We must have
they tell us to get the hell out of here when it's
minutes.
around an hour and a half.
Yeah, but there are some good ones. I love the questions. Keep them coming.
Yep.
It's fun to interact with everybody. So
I hope I answered. I get done with these things some days, and I'm like, wait, what the hell did I answer? It's such a whirlwind, and I got so much going through my head right now.
And it's not just like you're all in for running backs like today. That was the focus, but we touch on so many.
I know. Then we go back to other ones. I know.
And teams.
I know.
It's a lot of range.
It is. It's a lot of notebooks, and like Pete, I think had some questions for me. I got 3. I got another one because Pete had some. He said there were some questions about some offensive linemen that were down the line guys, and I was like, I don't have that notebook today, so. I was like, I don't feel comfortable.
I don't have that
going
shot
off the
in
top
my bag
of my head. Yeah, I don't. I don't want to go off the top of my head with those guys.
Yeah.
But hopefully we answered some of your questions. Keep them coming, definitely. Please. I'm gonna get on these linebackers. Okay, I've started that, so I'm excited to see the rest of the group. It looks like this is actually probably another pretty deep position. We'll see where we go. I got linebackers, tight ends coming up. We'll be doing that on the pod this week. And please, any more questions about any of this stuff? Love answering it. Paulie, you the man.
Good to see you,
Thanks
man.
for driving the ship.
You got it.
Peace out. Talk to you guys Wednesday. See ya.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.